Ladies and gentlemen, Jamie Nudelman is about to come on in just a bit here. He's going to bring the fire. This dude is creating some awesome viral videos, helping people get their message out, generate leads, and all kinds of good stuff like that. Before we get to that, though, let's talk about this, the sponsor message of the day. If you are an entrepreneur or high achiever, you're feeling stuck, you're overwhelmed, or you just know there's another freaking gear within you, and you want to be challenged, you want to be stretched, you want to ignite yourself to find out what is your potential really, who are you, what the F are you made of? If you want to ignite yourself and go for 21 days of hardcore accountability, that's what the 21-day challenge is for. I'm here to ignite you and your passion, your self-belief, so you succeed like never before. That's the 21-day challenge. Send me a message, chris@beyourgps.com, or find me on Facebook and message me there and let me know you are excited about your 21-day challenge, okay? That's going to be a lot of fun. And next up is the iTunes review of the week. And this week, it's by Human Flame. And Human Flame says it gets you going. Thanks, Chris, for your energy and positivity that you bring. Love what you are bringing to the table. Thanks so much, Human Flame. If you want to give us a review, you're listening or watching right now, go to beyourgps.com/iTunes or search Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self in the iTunes store, and you can give us a review there. Super appreciate that, and it helps us grow and know more about what you desire, what you want to see more of, and how we can keep growing with you. So that's super important, and thank you in advance for doing that. I'm going to introduce Jamie in just a bit here. Before that, though, make sure you grab your pen, grab your paper, be ready to take notes, because this guy is going to be talking about all sorts of amazing things, health hacking, making sure you're your most vibrant, energized self, as well as marketing, video marketing, generating leads, tons about business, and we're going to find out all how to put it together with storytelling, some really, really cool stuff. So make sure you stick around, because one idea really has the ability and power to transform your life forever. So make sure you stay tuned. Let's go ahead and introduce him, and then we will bring him on, because it's going to be a freaking powerhouse interview. Mr. Jamie Nudelman is a former personal trainer and a health coach. He helps implement high-impact, video-driven journeys for visionaries who want to automate their lead gen. He helps them develop their video marketing content strategy for social media and YouTube. And Jamie's love for video and design comes from his creativity side that sparked when he was just a boy. His key focus is centered around storytelling and being able to deliver a powerful message through emotional video. Jamie still focuses his time within the holistic health space, which stems from the desire to live the best possible lifestyle while feeling a sense of balance on the inside. Jamie is from Toronto, Canada, where he fully enjoys in that Canadian beautiful bliss. He fully enjoys that lifestyle, feeling a sense of balance on the inside, and getting into nature, sharing moments with his most dedicated clients, friends, and family. And we're absolutely blessed to have him here with us today. Jamie, you ready to rock this, dude?
You got it, my man. I'm good to go.
We're going, man. We're live on Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self. Jamie, thank you for being here and for sharing your gifts with the world, man. We're going to have a lot of fun, and I appreciate you taking the time to share with our audience about everything that you're up to. It's really amazing. We met a couple weeks ago at a dinner event and just knew there was some great presence and energy about you, and had great conversations since then. So really, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, no problem. It was good.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're going to dive right into the theme of the day. Today it is remembering how to have fun. So Jamie, how does this concept, this conversation of remembering how to have fun, how does that show up for you in your life, brother?
You know, it's funny because the last couple of weeks have been haywire, because we met in Las Vegas. We had Spice Tribe, and along with that, I've been traveling nomadically. I'm actually in Toronto right now for about a week, but I've been traveling the world with my partner, and we're heading off to Bulgaria next week for a couple of months. So kind of crazy, right? But the thing with that, how do you have fun? But when you're overwhelmed with all the work you do, depending on what you do career-wise, especially as an entrepreneur, it can bog you down. And to answer the question, I had to remind myself last night that, yeah, I have people here who want to see me. So go out, explore, stop being inside, let loose a little bit, breathe, and that's the thing that I think a lot of us get stuck with until we recognize the thought pattern and we can allow it to just be something we can enjoy. So that was like the recent conflict I had actually yesterday. And I'm like, wait a second, I'm going down the stairs, I'm getting in the car, I'm driving, and I'm going to let go for a bit.
It's just like you detach from the expectations, the constant need to create or build, or, like being an influencer, being a visionary. There's always that
Hmm.
next thing that we want to create and get out to the world because it's fulfilling, it's exciting, especially, videos and all kinds of content that we're able to produce. And we just get to remember how to go within ourselves and say, hey, what's fun? Who do I have fun with? Who do I want to be around? What kind of
Yeah.
adventures can I create right now in this moment? And let's go do it.
Yep. I agree with that
Yeah.
100%.
I love it. I love it, man. So I shared a little bit about you in your intro, but for everyone who's just getting to know you, why don't you share about who you are, what you stand for, and what your clients come to you for? We'll start off with that, and then we'll go back into the journey and talk about how you got here. But just briefly share with our audience.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Because when I come on shows, I can take it down so many avenues. I mean, the bio says it itself. I'm from the health space. I'm very heavily invested in that industry, even to date. Like, I mean, continually trying to, download and upgrade and come from a spiritual side of just trying to figure out how to keep the body flowing, how to do things in a process that works.
Yeah.
And, with that, like, that's part of my past of what I used to be. But you have to continue doing that because, if you're continually showing up and you're not taking care of your health, there's problems. And to date, it's the biggest thing that we need to do to make sure we can show up and we can actually be there presently. And the problem with that was that food was the biggest problem. And I noticed that nutrition is something that a lot of us think we know, and a lot of us do know, but there's always little micro-oriented details that we don't know. So I made a very big amount of time investment to learn on how the body works, what's currently happening in the global state in terms of the things like the supplements we take, the food we consume, the agriculture of how things are, let's say, grown, like vegetables, fruit. And the point of me saying this is to go by going deep into that is to monitor what we consume, because that is the biggest thing that we use to impact our business, our energy, the way we feel. And if we don't do that, there's a problem. But more about me on the other side that I've switched to, which is more video marketing. I've always been creative since I was a kid with whatever I've done. I've always been this process-oriented person. And it wasn't until recently that I realized that based upon personality typing and doing a lot of deep research into cognitive-based functioning, like Carl Jung and all these different formulas online. Good example is 16personalities.com. You find out like your Myers-Briggs kind of personality. I'm very process-oriented. I like being behind the scenes. Doesn't mean I'm not a leader. It just means instead of looking at an overall goal, I like looking at the process between. And it's very logical driven and very tangible. So
That's awesome.
all the moving parts, like the gears moving. So that's what took me to the video marketing space, because I was always looking at the way things were built and moved. And at a young age, growing into my teenage years, it went with me. So to now being 27, I mean, I feel like I'm still a kid, to be honest. It's the whole fun aspect you asked about is I'm in the video marketing space. I like working on viral videos. I've worked with many teams, such as teams behind Prince EA, Jay Shetty, that have gotten videos out there, even Lewis Howes, that have gotten videos up to millions of views. And I love being able to take someone's story, listening to what the message is, understanding the heartfelt feeling, and actually being able to compile something that isn't just thrown together. Remember, video could be like that, but taking something that can actually flow and transition what the viewer sees to making a choice, to taking action, and to thinking something that's different. So that's just a quick definition of some things I do, but that's the primary focus. The health side, for myself, but also making sure that marketing through video is a powerful pusher forward. So.
Dude, I love it. I love it. And I hear like the performance, getting the most out of every second, every moment that we have, and showing up as our greatest possible selves in our health is super important to you, and our wellness, that vitality, that energy, as well as the performance of people's message, right? Performance in the process of the health, as well as the performance and process of the message and the story and the communication of someone's brand into somebody's space that they're in on the other side of a screen or a computer or whatever it might be, and being able to transport them forward into a choice, into a new reality that they didn't even know existed before.
I agree. That's exactly what it is.
That's awesome. Epic, man. Yeah. Epic. So I want to go back into the journey now and talk about like, where did the fascination with process begin? Where did you start seeing that like really start to show up?
I mean, like when I was young, I mean, as kids, because like being like between like 2 and 7, you have that whole, because like everyone works on brainwave frequency patterns. And a lot of my work now outside of video marketing for like downtime is an energy modality, meditation, mindset, brainwaves from beta, alpha, gamma, theta. And the thing is, I noticed that as a kid, when you're from 2 to 7, you're in theta brainwaves. And of course, other ones come and cycle through as you age. But that's where, when you look at kids, they are in such a, I'll say creative space, for better terminology, to keep it simple, that they'll believe anything that you tell them. And that's where the most influential growth is. And at those ages, when I was young, I was always doing weird things like drawing, mazes, a lot of Lego, a lot of Connects, a lot of piecing things together. And it wasn't the outcome I liked. It was the formula of how it was built. And the biggest thing, though, that I really picked up on about a month ago, it was actually about the same day we had a phone call about this interview process to come on here and talk on the podcast, was when I was about 11, 12, and 13. It was in between these 3 years. I was a very big gamer. I was very technical with how to get things done. So by that point, if you've never been a gamer, everything's very technical on keyboards. You have your mouse. Like my mouse has like 15 buttons on it right now. You can combine you could set those buttons to do different things. There's always a formula to something like that. But when I was between 11 and 13, I played an RTS game similar to the same company as StarCraft. It's called Warcraft. And the back end where you can make worlds and maps had a triggering system, actions, conditionings, and functions. Sounds a lot familiar if you're in the automation game of email. So when I eventually pulled into the email marketing side of managing my own business at the time, I was like, holy crap. This process is the same exact thing as the things I was doing for like 3 to 5 years as a kid, as a teenager, preteen. And so all of that made me realize that this is why I'm in love with process, because it's the formula to success. And although that might not sound like video marketing, it's the same thing with editing. It's the same thing with filming. It's the same thing with conceptualization and storyboarding.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's
heavy. It's heavy. But it's for those watching who understand what it takes to create a great viral video, let's say, to storyboard something and not just slap it together. That's what I'm talking about. If you understand that already, then beautiful. If you don't, it's going a little bit deeper on the technical side.
And would you say that understanding that past where we came from is essential to be able to have a really powerful message, or is it more so just like what is it that goes into when you're talking to someone and dialing in their message and the emotion and the story that you want to get across in a video? Like, do you pull from the past? Like, how do you extrapolate that best impacting message?
It really depends on what the outcome is too. I mean, the goal is one thing, as I mentioned earlier. And again, if I'm about process, which I am, it's when I do my work, it's within that parameter. But you still have to know the outcome. You have to know what you're trying to get from it. But the story is what's so crucial, because story could be anything. You could talk about something that happened right now. I could talk about this podcast and I could turn that into an experience, how I felt, what it was like building up to getting on the podcast, looking in the mirror and saying, wow, how's this going to go? Am I going to feel my heart beating? It's getting all the micro-oriented details, just like how you would take your supplements to get micronutrients. It's not just about the carbohydrates anymore. It's like, what are you actually getting? So story, I like to look at, let's say, if you're trying to talk about something that happened in the past, it's understanding and pulling the viewer to experience what that's like, to grab them and get the attention and then take them through what it took you to get that outcome. And that's very vague, right? But there's so many different stories we talk about. A lot could be the rag to riches story, which is what a lot of people use, because there are many people who've been broke. There's been many people who've had no money, and they had to go through this entire transformation to understand what was going on internally in their heart, to open it and feel it, which many aren't able to really implode upon that, and then change and transform. And then that's the story. Because then you talk about what it takes to stand up, to make a difference, to believe in yourself. And that's more of the inspirational kind of content that I'm referring to there. But that's a big one I work on all the time.
That's awesome. And what would you say is the when you started getting into video marketing, like how did you know that was your thing, and what made you stand out from others, would you say?
It's funny because I've been doing this since 2011.
Wow.
I mean, earlier, like 2009, I've been doing video just for fun. A lot of it was gaming on YouTube, live streaming on the original days of Twitch.tv. I just like to do things. I never really had a goal to be a famous YouTuber. I just liked creating. Again, back to that. And so the marketing side picked up when I got into digital marketing for my own website as a health coach. I did all the back end stuff. And I'm like, why do I love this stuff so much? And why do I hate coaching people? And I'm not saying I'm a bad coach. It's just, why do I prefer to do everything behind the scenes and make it look awesome and make it sound cool and make it look incredible, but not really have the same inspiration to sit on a phone call and say, look, like, you got to eat the apple, man. You got to have this. It's going to save you. You know, you got like 36 milligrams of vitamin C in this sucker. You know, it's just, it wasn't there. Yeah. So the drive was in the video marketing, and I'm just like, I love making people realize something and they make a change. And it's very like intertwined, like those two things. So it was very similar. So that's what it is.
That's amazing, man. So getting into the foundation of what we need to know to make our content successful, what would you say are the pillars or the principles that really makes videos successful or stand out? Or is there another place you want to really start us on so our audience can get up to speed with the power of this, how they can start implementing some of these changes?
Well, it depends on what you're doing and who you are. I mean, like, is your audience, are they majority? I'm assuming are they coaches? Are they authors? Like, who are they? Like, let's pick an area that we can work on.
There's definitely a lot of coaches out there, so we can start with that.
I mean, like, coaches want to get more clients. They want to be able to help other people. That's the point of being a coach. And of course, make money, have a business, or eventually build a business if that's the case, and go from being like solopreneur, self-employed, to having something there. And so in the interim of doing that, when you create content, it's being able to use the story of who you are, why you do what you do, to stand out from everyone else in your space, because everything's flooded. If you obviously follow the whole ClickFunnels thing, you know, the Red Sea, and then you know, the blue, and it's so funny because you want to pull from the red. And I was watching that actually at Funnel Acted Live, and I'm like, interesting approach, because I've never actually followed Russell Brunson stuff up until that point. Which is kind of funny that I'm on here talking about marketing, and it's like, wait, you haven't read like .com Secrets? I'm like, I don't try to get too consumed with that stuff, but simple formulas for video. You want to pick. I think it should be very basic. I think video could be so basic that you could start with what the story is, but how that story relates to the audience you're attracting. So if you're a coach and you're trying to get new clients, who's the market? Who's the audience? You still have to do your customer avatar research, know the profile of them and how they feel. The same way you make a sales page, you look at the pain points and you think about a story, like a situation you've gone through where you can pull through them and just be real enough on the camera. Because we all know what authenticity looks like, but we all know what like fake lying looks like. You don't want to be that kind of person. Some like it, some don't. And I know this is very vague for anyone listening, because you're probably wanting like a 4-step process. Well, it's so hard to give one, because I really can't. And I know can't's a rough word, but it depends on who we're working with still beyond just coach and what the actual story is. But you want a story that's compelling, that's deep, that's pulling, something that you actually feels powerful in your heart. There's always someone who's going to listen to you. Believe me on that. Trust me there. And then you want to actually tell the story in a way with the right wording, where that person can actually be like, wow, this person understands me. And it's told in a way where there's emotional attachment to it, the right music, the right feeling. And the feeling can be something that makes them tear, it can be something that makes them angry or want to change. Because making a change, as we know, is so difficult. And to make a transformation takes time, depending on where we're at and what our perception tells us. So there's not really a step formula, in my opinion. I mean, you can create one, because I am process oriented, but it really comes down to how you look at the project and how you look at what the outcome's trying to be.
Yeah. And what
do you think on that?
There's a lot of different ways to be able to create videos that lead people into the next step, because there's like so many different milestones that people could have. It could be trying to get people into a webinar, try to get people on a strategy session, try to get people into a video series. You know, there's like so many destinations to take people, and it's really like to be able to say, here's the steps that you go through. It's a little bit difficult with so many different varieties of processes that people can go through to get to the end result of impact, income, influence, all that good stuff.
Yeah, and you mentioned like webinar, and you mentioned like sale. Like, so if it's a webinar, like obviously webinars in itself are certain scripts, like the perfect sales script, the perfect webinar. That's fine. But if it's just like, hey, you know, here's a quick Facebook ad. You know, I have this product launching, or I have this coaching service. And let's say it's to an existing audience, they already know you. But if it's a cold audience, you don't want to be selling coaching right off the bat. You want to talk about the experience and lead that to something that is so not irrelevant, but very minor to digest, that it makes sense. I mean, I think at this point, if anyone's in marketing and funnels, they know funnel 101, cold, warm, hot. It's pretty obvious stuff. There's no other way to sugarcoat it, but it's making the content applicable to each category. If they don't know you, well, it should be more of like a piece where it's not about trying to sell them everything and throwing everything down their throat. It's just creating awareness, right? And then, of course, going down the pipeline of warm and then hot, and then just closing the deal.
Yeah. So it probably starts off with the education of here's what you probably already know, but you probably don't know this about what you already know. It's like kind of like pacing them in their experience in those first couple videos of like, especially if it's a cold audience, it's like, hey, like I get what you're going through. It's probably something like this, but did you know this? And what about this? Like, oh my gosh, like I bet you didn't even know about that. And like it's showing them the spot on their nose or their blind spot, so to speak. I found that that's a great next step kind of thing.
And with that, let's say it wasn't advertisements. Let's say it was YouTube or social media. I mean, I have some clients I've worked with where I've done their Instagram content. That's more like micro content. Right. I mean, that's like repurposing content, but that's more like instructional, tutorial. What do most YouTubers do when they start off? They're doing more instructional videos, educational. It's the best thing you can do. And that way you just pour out what you feel is valuable in here. And then you start looking at the statistics, things like TubeBuddy, vidIQ, applications like that, like Morning Fame, things that could track your analytics. You start looking at what are the actual trends? What is being watched on YouTube? And then from there, you start looking at what content would then make the most sense to create that you know about. I mean, if you don't know anything about, let's say, I don't know, I'm looking at this taco kit here that we have, how to make tacos. If you don't know how to make tacos, you should probably not make a video about how to make tacos. But if you know how to, do pottery, right? You talk about pottery. So it depends on what it is, right? And then if it's coaching, you talk about the experiences that your clients go through. You make a list of 50 things that you feel that your clients or previous existing clients have gone through, and you write the answers. Then that could be an ebook. Then that could be an actual video itself, but it's like 50 different videos. And then you repurpose the videos and it's like, whoa, there's 100 pieces of content and that's it. Yeah. It's a repurposing strategy at that point, and you have your content. Not as much. Go on.
I was going to say, I'm curious, when someone comes to you and they are wanting more clients and you show them, hey, there's a process to do it, video marketing, lead generation, and they get overwhelmed, like, what do you say to those people who feel like, man, I just don't even get this stuff?
I mean, I just did a intensive with a client of mine in LA. I was in San Diego for traffic conversions, and I went up there after and like a day and a half intensive. And we were there to film a bunch of content. And what got him actually overwhelmed, it wasn't the filming part. It was just understanding how to use the videos properly and how to use it for traffic. And the thing with my clients now, I'm trying to figure out their personality types, because my certain personality type is a finisher type, in my opinion, where it's good at implementing. It's not good at creating. I'm good at creating stories and seeing the process behind the story, but I'm not good at looking at the end goal and actually formulating the strategy on top of that too, which could be a little contradicting in a sense. It's very tough to explain via this, but with a personality like this client, he fills in those puzzle pieces. So he's good on the front, I'm good on the back. So he inputs me and then I output. That's and awesome. What's so neat? It's actually really cool. And what's neat about that is when I went to LA to work with him, we made all these videos, but he was so like, he gave me all the ideas. But he said, how do we launch the ads? How do we do this? What's the formula? And I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. We got to do this. Yeah. We got to finish this. We have to complete this. We have to make it sound this way. So your question was tied to what happens if they're overwhelmed. I would say that's when you actually have to organize, structure, and show them the workflow. So a good example could be, let's say, Trello boarding. Asana workflow. Airtable is more for like spreadsheet, actually. Maybe Basecamp, if you use that one. You use these applications to show the outcome goal, and then you backtrack and you show what every week looks like and every day looks like. And then they can see what's to come each day, and it explains everything in detail. So that's kind of stuff I do too. I'm a very good systems guy. I'm like a jack of all trades, funny enough. It's tough, man.
I love that you know that you're a finisher though. I think that people
Yep.
who are finishers, you need to surround yourself with people who are great starters, right? Whether it's
Hmm.
clients or partners, team members, that kind of thing. And then if you know you're a good starter, like I'm more of the starter. I come up with like a billion and one ideas, and it's like, okay, well,
Oh, I
which
bet.
one do we really execute on and follow through to completion? And then I use someone who's typically more analytical and action driven to be
Hmm.
like that finisher, to kind of like round everything out. So it's so important to know who you are and what you bring to the table and where your room for improvement is and where you can have a team around you that makes up for those weaknesses.
Yeah, and that's the big thing too. The point of like, well, I mean, when you have a business that has a team, that's where it's at. You have the right people to fit the right spots, which is actually a good topic for another podcast on personality types, because you could find the right people. Like,
Yeah.
for instance, my girlfriend is she's like we connect. Actually, you met her at
Yeah.
the dinner. We connect together like puzzle pieces. Like she's a starter, I'm a finisher. So
Mm.
she's also in video marketing. So when we come together on projects and collaboration, she's good at telling me all the visionary stuff. And I'm like, cool, here's how we finish it. And it's like,
Yes.
what? She's like, I don't know how you do that. And I'm like, well, I don't know how you do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what? So it's very cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome, man. How would you say your knowledge of health comes into play when you're working with people on video marketing lead generation? How does that come into play? Like how is that an asset that you bring to the table, or what strengths do you draw from that when it comes to like working on a marketing project for someone that may not be in the health field?
Yeah, because a lot of my clients are actually in the health coaching space, funny enough. So like I know so much about the industry that it's like I'll be like, it's not going to really sell. I mean, well, everyone talks about weight loss, but if it's outside, like I've worked with recruiters, I've worked with like YouTuber or like people on YouTube who like to promote like how to grow your channel. I've worked with like big teams like again behind Prince Ye and Jay Shetty, like so
Yeah, yeah.
that's more like influencer based. So with that, the only thing I could say really, there's no real tie with health. It's just if other people on the team I find or other people I work with who lack energy, need more focus, I can still tell them like, well, like, dude, if you're not eating properly, you're eating out. Like that's a problem. Like, do I have to sell you and I'll sell you like health coaching now? Honestly,
Mm, mm.
like, do I? And I've been doing the whole celery juice craze uh, the whole world's going on right now. So
Yeah,
like, it's knowing how to just level up your health and
yeah,
maintain it.
yeah.
I always bring it back to that because it's kind of not it's kind of irrelevant in that sense. I mean, I think we all need to take care of health, but there's only so much time in the day to focus on the health, and that's the
Right,
big troubling
right.
spot.
And it's funny because like you show up there to serve in a marketing capacity and lead
Yeah.
generation and to work on the project, and then it's like if you notice that their health or their energy is out of alignment, it's like how much are you really able to contribute to that if they didn't hire
Mm.
you necessarily for that? Even though you have wisdom and expertise, the person's got to know that they have that quote unquote problem and like be willing to take action on it and be willing to do something about it to like receive the benefits of it. But I was just curious about that because they're kind of different fields, and you combine them because you want to work with people who are in the healthcare industry or health and wellness industry, as well
Mhm.
as bring your gifts to the table with video marketing. That's what a sweet spot, and you knew how to combine those to be able to cut through the noise and be really unique, because like that's a
Yes,
lot more of a niche.
and they go both ways actually because they're
Mm,
so different. But then when you start realizing that everything you eat and do is your lifestyle and
yeah.
it's never the same as anyone else, even if it's the same diet or protocol, you're still different because
Mm,
you genetically think differently. Like
yeah.
your cells are just it's all different, as we all know. If we don't know, well, surprise. But again, it's just most entrepreneurs take care of their health. It's something I've realized, and
Yeah.
some really know they should, but then they don't. It's just knowing what you have to do, but you're just not doing it because you're busy or lazy. But the marketing side is where it really shines
Mm.
because people just some people I work with just don't take care of their health, and I'm like, well, sorry to say it, you might have to actually have an apple a day or meditate. There's a whole spiritual side of myself too that I don't go into. That's more of like the hippy dippy stuff.
I
But
love it. I love it, man. And also like to be able to impact the world, these, influencers
mhm,
and people who want to build a
yeah,
brand and a company, organization, they want to impact the world in big ways. To be able to do that, they have to have the energy and the sustainability of their
yes,
of their vehicle, of their vessel, their body for the rest of their life. To sacrifice today, at the cost of tomorrow, it doesn't make sense. You gotta got to love who you're being now, and you got to love who you're becoming as well. You have to make choices that align with both. And I think most people are so comfortable they don't want to give up that temporary pleasure and instant gratification and instant quick fix.
No, I agree too, and that's the thing, because I consider and talk about like strategies like that. But if it's like here it is. If you're let's say you have a brand, you paid like 5-10K for like your branding done by like a nice graphics team. You have everything you need, and you're generating, like you have money coming in, everything's good. But then when you make content, it doesn't feel right when someone watches it. Like if you have bags under your eyes, you're not sleeping. Look, I understand. I have those days too. I was up till 3 a.m. last night finishing some projects for some clients because I didn't outsource it. But it's like, you got to do what you got to do. Like it just happens. And so you have a bad night, but if it continues to happen and you show up on video and your energy's just off, especially coaches, by the way, if it's coaches, you're coaching clients all day, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it depends on how you do it. Depends on what you charge to. Let's say it's like 4 to 6 clients a day, which is nuts in my mind. I had 4 phone calls yesterday, which never happens in a row. And I'm like, how do the coaches do this? Because I was popping inositol and choline because I don't eat eggs. I need choline. And I didn't have like sunflower lectin, which provides choline. So I'm like, crap. So I take these pills and I'm like, I get it. I feel good, but like my brain's just melting. So if you're coaching clients and then you want to show up on video and it's like 6 p.m. or let's say, it's, whatever time it is, and you just don't feel right, you got to get back to yourself. Yeah. Take a nap, meditate, breathe. And it's hard to when there's a family, when there's kids, when there's like pets, when you have all these other responsibilities. Maybe someone in your family's ill and you're there taking care of them. I had to deal with a lot of that when I was over the last 10 years. It just happens. It pulls on you and it pulls your energy away. And so everything around us will impact us on video. So when you want to go in and create the right content, you actually have to make sure you're calm and collective, unless it's like one of those Red Bull commercials and you're just like going snowboarding with like 6 of those in you. So it's one of those things, right?
I love it, man.
Yeah, man.
So you mentioned about the spirituality and energy. That's like a important piece for you. Tell us how how you discovered or kind of stumbled upon that in your life.
We're going there. Oh boy. I mean, the first ever experience, because a lot of us have read like Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. We've listened to a lot of these meditational mantra books that want us to sit still and listen. Dr. Joe Dispenza is cool for that, by the way. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. His new one is, I don't know it.
Becoming super
supernatural. I think that's it. I think that's the one. I tried finding that in Arizona and I couldn't find it. I know. So spirituality, I mean, the power now got me into it. It was 2013, post breakup. Here comes the story. I was on the subway in Toronto, about to reinvest like 25K into a graphic design course program, web thing. It's something that I was like already not feeling. I was getting the whole gut feeling thing on the train, and I was reading The Power of Now, and I'm like, it's where he explains what it's like to be present. And I'm sitting there looking at the pole, and I'm like, my God, I don't want to go to this program. It was like this wake-up call. And so that was the first glimpse. And then after, again, another relationship, it failed. I realized I was addicted to dating women to run away from my problems. I had no career at that point. I was like, what the heck am I doing? I dove into reading business books. I started meditating. I started learning about the spirituality side. And then I followed that up after a Kyle Cease event. He was like a stand-up comedian who quit to do like more stage presence. Yeah. He had an event called Evolving Out Loud. I went there. It was cool. I loved it. Obviously, I came home. I'm like, crap, I'm back here in Toronto. It's cold. And then I started meditating. I was doing guided meditations for 90 days, 45 minutes a day. And the craziest things happened. I started attracting people that were, woo-woo, spiritual, in the, holistic health space, that were in alignment with what I wanted to do. People that guided me and helped me get further contract positions with the right businesses, which also got me into video marketing, funny enough, in itself, because those gigs tied to it. But then it's like a domino falls, the next ones fall with it. Yeah. And the big piece was starting to meditate. And then what came after was the people I met, because those people were just so interesting. I met people who, one fellow is my mentor now, and he got me into this whole energy space of looking at, like Wi-Fi, looking at EMF frequencies, starting to look at, how much time we have on the computer, these things, blue light blocking glasses. And then from there, I started looking at how we all live in this society. And I'm like, this is hard. There's a lot of things hurting us here. and a lot of us don't see it. And so I will say, though, on a different side, that the spiritual really helped me become calmer, and it helped me go inside more on my heart, because it was in pain. I wasn't happy. I was actually sad, and a lot of us don't want to admit it. And we need to become more of our masculine self. And a lot of things around us, like alcohol, coffee, pre-workout. I mean, there's heavier drugs too, but I don't want to go into that because this is your show. I'm just saying, like, that stuff is very feminine, and it pulls us back in over and over again. And because of that, we don't know how to just be okay with just being ourselves. And so I went through this giant journey of having to rediscover myself over the last 2 years. I'd say 3 actually now. And it's been really, really incredible, because now it's just, I'm flatline neutral. I just look at things. I'm like, cool. But in itself, it kind of makes me seem crazy. I'll just be honest, because people around me, man, they just still like, I don't understand this guy. And I'm like, well, look, like when you slow down and you start looking at how everything works around you, you really come and draw some conclusions that are powerful, very powerful. Wow. Has that happened to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So the like meditation has been something that's huge for me, to just like slow down and listen to me, to my higher self. And it's like when I understood that I'm like the observer, right? Like I'm the observer witnessing life through my body, through my eyes, through my mind, in this identity called Chris, like getting super woo-woo now. Like when I recognize that, I feel like so peaceful, you know, like there's nothing that could happen in the world that would like disturb me unless I let it. And so that becomes a very resourceful, powerful, grounded, centered place, that knowing that, hey, it's just, I'm the observer watching all this happen. And how do I want to choose to show up? How do I want to choose to respond and co-create with this that we've been given?
I like that. Yeah, because that's exactly what it feels like. It's almost like a third perspective, and you're monitoring yourself. You're monitoring every action you do, and it's like that other. There's a lot of voices in our heads, but there's one voice that says, "Pay attention to what you do and watch your actions, and watch for the ego that slips up." Yeah. Cool.
What's inspiring you this year, 2019? What's the thing that's getting you up out of bed and inspiring you the most?
You know, it's funny, because back in 2018, I went through a very big moment tying back to spirituality, where I ended up pulling a tarot card, and some people might not believe in it. I mean, it's also like luck. You know, that's just what it is, face value. But I pulled a travel card. And this is what's inspiring me, because after I pulled that card, I realized, all right, digital nomad time. I had this whole plan to go to Bali, travel to South Asia, go to Australia. And then everything got K-wired. I went to London, UK in January this year. And I then went to, I came back home for a family-related matter. And then I went to the States. I just traveled all around there, San Diego to LA, Vegas, Arizona, Nashville. And now I'm going to Bulgaria, as I mentioned earlier on in this show. I'm leaving for 3 months. Wow. I'm really, it's like, it's not even the video marketing. I love that stuff, but I'm excited to travel. I used to be this sheltered kid as a teenager. And then I finally grew wings. I quit playing World of Warcraft full time. True story. I was top 1% back in 2004, 5, and 6. I was top 1%. Awesome. It's like top 60,000 players. It's crazy, man. And then this like little chubby kid. I quit that. I got a social life, because I'm like, oh my God, I have nothing. And then, now it's like, and then I was still sheltered. I was stuck at being home with my parents. And then when I eventually moved out, I had this problem I identified with when I became spiritual. I'm like, I'm too afraid to go outside, and I'm a natural introvert. So it's like, someone has to pull me. Can someone pull me out? And so now I'm traveling with my girlfriend. And it's incredible, because I just feel amazing about seeing the world. And I wouldn't have known that unless I took the first step and booked the ticket. Yeah. And I had my good friend Daryl was telling me this. He's like, you just gotta book the ticket to Bali. Like, look, here are the numbers, man. It's like $40 a night for a private hostel. I'm like, yeah, but is a hostel the thing I want to do? It's like, I want a villa, man. It's so, but then I was being afraid. So I stepped in, I found some people, and then we were gonna go and do that. And then that fell through. But then I was like, no, you're going. And so I just left. Yeah. And that's what's inspiring me, Chris. I just want to travel. I want to see the world, and I want to work nomadically because I could do that, and I wasn't doing it last year, and it bothered me so much, as you can tell.
What do you discover? What have you discovered in traveling, in adventuring? Like what has opened up for you?
Okay, so other than besides the fact that I was at Funnel Hacking Live, TNC, and you know, meeting other entrepreneurs, that, by the way, like if you don't do that, like you can meet great people that way.
Yeah.
It's not the event, in my opinion. It's the perspective shift. I mean, here in Canada, it's like negative 15 out. I mean, when I left, it was negative 30. Not so pleasant. Like you're not going to want to go out. But when I got to Vegas and I started going out and seeing a different side of the world, and then when we met at Spice Tribe, I was like, holy crap! Like there are some really cool people out there, and there's all this different perspective of the world I'm seeing, and it's totally different. So the takeaway on that to provide is I really find that when I travel, I get these perspectives that show me a lesson that I need to change things up. And not like once a year, twice a year. It's every month or two. I need to go somewhere else. And it sounds hard because what if you want to have a home base or you have that? Well, if you're a digital nomad entrepreneur where you can just travel with your laptop, go and do it.
Yeah.
Because the reward is awesome. Note though, I'm 27 and I think we all go through this at this time. We like travel binge. I never thought I'd have it, but it's like an addiction. So that's what I'm most excited for. But of course, also the big projects that I'm bringing on too. There's some big things happening in the next couple months, and it's like, whoa, this is cool.
Yeah. What how do you feel, or how are you present to the impact that you help people have with your video marketing and lead generation? Like what comes up for you when you know you're creating millions of views, putting this content in front of millions of people, you know, building people's businesses by thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars?
You know what it really is? It's the fact that when the client, so I'm a big word of affirmation guy. Like I like someone telling me like, oh, you're a good person, or, you know, you're so wise. You helped me get over this. And it might sound to some people that, you know, it's like, oh, you still feel like you're good enough. Well, that's how my personality works. I never actually feel good enough. My personality never wants to feel success. Doesn't know what that is. So for me, when my clients, which, you know, a lot of my clients are the right match, personality wise, I attract them. When they tell me like, yo, this content is killer, or when I see the comments of the viewers, when I see people say this is incredible, like this video is what I was needing to like make a change, like that is what lights me on fire. Because you know what that means? It's feedback that says this video worked, and that these certain individuals are actually having a change occur in their life. They're waking up to the truth that they're so afraid to experience. And it gives me shivers now because it happens all the time. Because you never know what your words can do to impact. Even this show, dude, like you impact so many people, and I'm sure it works the same way with you. You see a review or a comment, and you're like, man, you're saying that if I didn't wake up today and go live, that this wouldn't have happened for this person. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's what it is. That's what I like the most, the affirmation side.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What do you see as like in let's say 10 years from now, Jamie, 10 years from now, you're 37 years old. What do you see being some of your biggest achievements or proudest moments or things that you really want to be known for?
By 37, I mean, even by 30, I have goals, but like by 37, I want to, or at that age, because I was like a late starter too. I was like the whole gaming teenage year thing was tough for me because it made it like I came out so late in terms of like career and stuff at 23, 24. Age doesn't matter, but to me, I felt like I could have done it earlier. By 37, I want to actually have a business, at least one business running under me, and that's cutting it too low. It's just how I am and how I think, but I want an actual team underneath me that can do all this video content work, that can manage that. And this is by 32, by the way, this is in 37. But I want a team there that can actually do everything and fill all the roles specifically, so I can just be on top and direct and just know that I can step away 1 or 2 months and it's all handled. Because that's the thing, because I want to be able to have that freedom. So I work off of freedom. But to be able to step away and know that everything is okay, something about that makes me exciting. The other thing too, though, is by 37, I want to have a bigger footing in the preventative care side of health, because that's all I care about. The majority of my family passed away from cancer, and I'm really, really against the way the healthcare world works. I mean, here in Canada, healthcare is free, so that's a blessing. But I hear some of the nightmare stories from the States and all over the world, and I get very nervous because it's like, wow, like that's hard. That's scary. It's very scary. So I want to be able to still feed the nutritional knowledge I have to the world, even if it's through my clients, because that's important. But at 37, I mean, I don't know what it would be at that point, but I want to have a community that is very, very much awakened. And here's what it is, actually. I just had to think through it. It's retreats. That's the thing, because I was trying to put on retreats last year, and it just wasn't the right time. By 37, I'll have it figured out. Retreats where it's the people I know that have the knowledge, and we all come together, and we're able to take you through what it takes to change. Because in 10 years, the world could be completely different. Who knows where it'll be? It could be completely backwards, or it could be exactly the same. But in 10 years, if it's different, I want to make sure there's a system there that can take those that need the support and the structure and guidance and actually make it happen. So.
Dude, that's awesome. I'm so excited for technology, man. The evolution of it,
dude.
like it's nuts, because like there's the aspect of maintaining the integrity of our biology, and then there's also the aspect of, well, we're becoming more and more like integrated with technology moving forward. It's nuts, man. It's
like, these phones, man.
It's another arm. Our phones are like another arm.
I don't like them. Well, like my phone's on airplane every night. I mean, I like to turn it off too, but I don't have an alarm clock right now. It's so sad. It's like $8, right? Like Simon Sinek talks about that. I love Simon Sinek. He's the same personality as me. Awesome. It's so funny, but he's like, spine alarm clock. I'm like, no, he's right. Crap. And then we never do it. I'm like, why? You know? But yeah, technology is cool. I think I was talking with you about this at the Spice Trap. I got some people in the energy modality space that work with like certain devices that can. There's one I'm getting actually. It's like a sleeping bag. You lie on it. It opens all your cells. It flushes out toxins. So it rotates the cell, pushes it out, and the body flushes it. And you can microcirculate your entire system so that when you actually have food that's nutritious, all those nutrients will absorb in. And I think that's so important for people who are fighting heavy metal load, toxin overload, parasite like Candida, SIBO, whatever they want to call it. That's the stuff that's killing us. And we have to start by cutting back on like the meat, start looking at what vegetables, plants, and fruit can do for us. I mean, like I have like 8 dates a day now. I'm crazy. I'm testing some crazy stuff, man. But this is the stuff I want to teach people. But like these devices, they work. They turn around what's causing your body pain. And then you start to realize, wow, I've been in this funk for like 10 years. Because you feel what it's like, let's say 2009. You'll be like, wow, it feels like 2009 again. My body feels like freer, less pressure, you know?
It's like my body remembers this. Dude, this feels good.
It's hard to explain it though. It's like a feeling, like something that you got so used to feeling. It's like right now it's something you used to, like you're so addicted to feeling that when you remove it, you're like, no, that can't be real. I can't feel this much better. It's like you're in shock. But then it's gone. And I think a lot of us want to find that cure. Yeah. To heal. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I love it. I love it, Jamie. Super awesome, man. In terms of like dialing in someone's message with their story, I want to dive back into that. Like what do you recommend they look at for those key milestones or places that have their story come alive?
So obviously wording is one thing, but it's also the key points of what was the pain point that you went through. So a big thing for me, I'll say, because I can use myself. I can always use myself as an example. For me, I was relying on relationships to provide me my happiness. So we can say happiness. We can look at why I'm not happy. And that's a great place to go because a lot of people aren't happy. Right. A lot of people are miserable. They're upset. Depression is a global thing that's rising for some strange reason. And I mean, it's hard, but that's one thing, like happiness. And then looking at what it took to change it. It's the keywords of what I did. So I decided to start reading books. So, the action of starting. And then you can take all these words and apply those words as a feeling and emotion to the content you create. So like the B-roll footage, you can catch yourself smiling or find other people smiling or find someone reading, things like that. That's what I think is important with video. It's taking the words and the emotional feeling and combining them and twisting them. And that way you are able to grab the viewer's attention and almost create a foreshadow effect along the way. So find those words like that. So happiness, start. I would say when my story progressed. So over the years I was progressing and I was evolving, and it's showing the timeline. So a story, it's timeline evolution, but it's also having like a start. It's almost like what's the problem or the pain, and then what's like the salute. Like it's almost like what did you have to? It's almost like a testimonial. I was in this situation. Right. This is what I started to do. This is what the experience was like. and then this is what the outcome is. And that's what I feel like video is almost like in itself. It's very similar. So, 3 years ago, I was in a position where I was relying on relationships to provide me happiness. And, it was horrible because I was unable to actually function as a human being. I would go from relationship to relationship, breakup to breakup, and feel like the world was crumbling below me. And you use all those words to show it, like mountains collapsing, stuff like that. And then it's like, but then I realized that I had a problem, that I was relying on these relationships. And so I started to look inward, and I found that I need to actually work on myself. And I realized I had no career happening. So I decided to start reading books and advancing my knowledge. So you could take that story along the way on the timeline and start piecing it together. And the big thing is the music too, because when you create video, you need to know what kind of audio, so music goes on the background, because that's what gives it the feel. And when you don't have that, there's a problem, because you can't, for me, especially when I do this work and I look at like the storyboarding and I'm on the timeline looking at it, the feeling is not there unless the music's there. Wow. That's the biggest part. So when you're able to tell the story and piece all the parts, so where I was, what I had to do to change that, what was it like, what was the outcome, what you could do today to start that, plug in your marketing opt-in, or, you can always plug in the things you did. Like, it depends on what you have as lead magnets and books and guides. That's where it all comes together too. So kind of a very strange answer I gave you, but it's
I love it.
It's like in the moment, that's how I would think. I'd be like, so like, what was it that this person was going through?
Yeah.
What was the trauma like? So like, how'd you feel? Like, let's get in there. Let's pull out that emotion. It's like, oh, I can't. No, you have to pull it out. Yeah. You have to pull it out.
Yeah. Do you think a lot of people are resistant to like going back to that moment and like looking at it again, or what would you say keeps them from not accessing their gold, their experiential wisdom and gold?
I think anyone can go back. It's just it's giving them, so it's first off getting the permission it's giving yourself permission to go back and look at it and feeling okay with telling the story. Because let's say it's not storytelling in that aspect. Let's say it's just talking about maybe the growth of a company. Like last year, we were making $10,000 a month. And, it was great because we had all these people here working with us. We had like 4 employees. We had like an ad expert. We had this person, that person. But it just didn't feel right. So we had to learn how to make more. Like if it's like one of those stories or like you're doing like a product video, it's very different, And like I'm not in the product space. I'm more in like the motivational, inspirational space. So it's tied differently. It's not like your typical like, cartoony draw, this is a marketing funnel. Here's how it works. It's like I love that stuff, like doodly stuff. But I like the vector tunes. But I think it's being okay with accessing those memories and being able to pull the emotion in and to talk about it, because people love that stuff. Yeah. They love emotion. That's how they connect. It's all psychology. They want to hear about the problem if it relates. Yeah. So that's the biggest part.
Do you think too many people might be staying stuck in that education phase and not like moving enough into what makes them different and connecting on the story level and emotional level?
I think knowledge is power, but also knowledge is, in my opinion, a stall. So it's an excuse to sit still. And I've been there before, where like I've read so much. Like I know so much about nutrition, right, and health. I'm not doing anything with it. Well, it's not my interest, so or it's just not my thing. It's just you can't do 2 things at once. So the marketing is my real pull. I love it. Yeah. So that's why I do it there. But when people do, people read too much and learn too much and buy too many courses. I mean, if we're gonna go there, I know people who spent tens of thousands of dollars on shiny object syndrome, and it's not helpful, because they're like, I'll make an app one day. Oh, I could do this and that. I'm like, wait a minute, but you have never even like gotten a client yet. And those are the people starting over here in that bucket. If you already have a business and it's established, it doesn't matter. Right. But like, it's like, dude, take a step back. Like they're not looking at what they're doing. There's a lack of awareness because they don't need all that stuff. But yeah, I agree. Knowledge is power, but it stops you unless you're not implementing. If you're not implementing, there's an issue. So implement.
I'm curious, did any fears or blocks come up for you in terms of implementing and taking action on your journey? Because like you have a high level of track record and results that you've produced today. What came up along the journey for you?
The biggest one was money fear, and it still stands today, but in a different form. Yeah, and it comes from. I mentioned to you late before we started this, actually. I have a money fear from, I don't want to be mean and say this, but it's from how I was raised and how I grew up. Like, it's very like, being smart with money, and not knowing how to take risks when you know it's a smart risk. You know, it's a calculated risk. So for me, I had this obsession with being afraid to spend like $5. And so when you think about investing in, let's say, doing Facebook ads or having a budget or a campaign, and there's all this money here anyways, you're consistently concerned about it and addicted to it. So what's interesting, it took me about the last decade, I'd say since I was about 12, I was dealing with this. Maybe 15, 16. Something I don't even know. It's whenever I started working is when I realized this. Yeah, it's when I started working that I understood that money was a thing that comes and goes, but I didn't look at it as like a resource of energy, how I look now, where you exchange it. Because it's always coming back when you need it. The universe provides, in my opinion. It's always happened for me that way. Yeah. However, the one thing is the fear still shows up because it's the worrying effect of feeling like there's nothing there, although there is something there. Yeah. So it's like, why is that there? And that was the biggest struggle to at least break through on a foundational level. And that happened about a year ago, actually, funny enough, where I realized that it was when I was meditating, there's this addiction to control over what's there in the bank account. And I'm like, whoa, you got to stop thinking about that. And we have to start looking at what the ROI and outcome is. Yeah. And that's not how I work. It's all process oriented. Wow. If I wait this long and for this to come in, this will happen. Or how about if I just instead spend this now and this is the result, this is what I get. You know, so that's like the biggest fear I've had. And outside of that is just social anxiety. So like, let's say approaching females. If I was like single, I use that example. A lot of men have trouble. It's like introvert syndrome, like being able to approach a woman. That is applied to everybody. So being able to approach anybody at an event. It's very hard unless someone pokes me first or like something happens around me. Like if someone hits me and like, oh, sorry, I'm like, oh, hey, how are you? It's looking for an excuse to have a conversation.
Yeah, you need a trigger, a conversation trigger.
Yes. So it's those two things that I will say are the biggest. I mean, I'm sure I could think of more, but right now I'm pretty calm and collective.
That's awesome. Awesome, man. So, Jamie, if we could wrap this conversation up with the biggest takeaway, biggest thing you want our audience to get and implement from this interview, what would you say that is?
I want those watching and listening to understand that video is powerful, that you don't need anything crazy to start. You don't need expensive cameras. You don't need gimbals. You don't need all this stuff. As much as they are tools, what you really just need to start thinking about is, or what you might want to start thinking about, proper psychology here, is to look at what you've gone through. And is what you've gone through compelling enough as, let's say, a coach to use to attract more of your audience? And does it relate? To be okay with talking the truth, which is vulnerability, and to know that that message will, in fact, allow other people to feel safe enough to invest their time with you and to spend their money on your business because they want what you give them in terms of experience for success. That's the biggest thing I want to say here, because as video gets more and more popular as it is, a lot of people are going to start, and it's going to be messy. It's going to be crummy. It's not going to be the greatest, and that's just fine. I just want those listening and watching this to understand that you could start today, but just to make sure that what you're creating has structure and it flows properly and it's from the heart. That's all I care about. Awesome. And that you're having an apple today.
That's right. Staying healthy. Love it. Love it. So,
man.
Jamie, this is awesome, man. Our audience is loving this. How do they take the next steps? How do they connect with you? What can we do? Invite them to do next?
What can they do next? Well, if you're looking for viral videos, if you're looking for anything that is tied to like the repurposing space, looking at how to like start YouTube, create your video content, just get it going, right? Because video is so powerful. It really depends. I like to say I'm in the organic lead gen space, but also recently in the paid, because paid ads are very cool too. Yeah. If you're looking for that and you want that effect, you can reach me. I honestly keep it simple. Go to Facebook and you can find me there. Facebook.com/trainer.jamie. Magic. Worst case scenario, you can go to my website. I think it's been showing at the bottom here. I saw that little note there. JamieNudelman.com. You can check out some of the stuff on there. To be honest, I'm redoing the site. So, I mean, there's some stuff working, some stuff is not. But that's just the way it goes. Timing is everything, right? I'm just honest, man. I'm not going to send people to a site that's like, that looks awesome and it's like the buttons and anchor. It's like, dude.
I love
But
it.
no, if you're serious about getting your video starting, you just want to hear, if you want to learn more about that, there's no fancy opt-in. There's no lead magnets. I don't want to bore you with all these marketing tools. I know I'm in marketing, but if you really want to start with video, let's have a conversation. And the conversation is a way for you to understand and learn more about what you can do to get started and what makes the most sense moving forward with your business and practice. So bam.
Beautiful. Love it. Jamie, dude, you're a freaking powerhouse, man. Love what you're creating. Excited to see even more, the travels, the adventures, the community, the retreats, all of it, man, and see you help people get their message out in bigger and bigger ways. So keep up the heat, dude. Super proud of you.
Love it, Chris. Thank you so much. I appreciate being here and chatting.
Absolutely.
Right on.
We'll see you soon, okay?
All right. Awesome.
All right.
Cheers.
Take care.